While I have all this stuff out, I'm going to show you how the 32X works with the Model 2 Sega Genesis. Here's that cable I was talking about that plugs into the back of the Model 1, which has a different AV output than the Model 2. You see here, you can take the 32X cable, split it apart, and now it works with the Model 2. So, like I said, make sure you have the cable that you need. This one is easier to come by, as I understand it. So you're going to plug that into the output here on the Model 2 Sega Genesis. And that will go into the back of the 32X. And there's this little plastic thing that you can get, or that comes with it, or came with it. They don't sell these anymore. Slides underneath, increases the height, and it sits on top of the Model 2 Sega Genesis. Now you'll still need 2 power supplies, but this is a more compact version of the 32X and the Sega Genesis. Here's a look at a standard 32X box for Metal Head. This game is surprisingly fun. Slide that out, there's a game cartridge in here, kind of complicated packaging. The game cartridges themselves look very similar to Sega Genesis cartridges. They're basically the exact same size. This will play Genesis games, like I mentioned. They have slightly different styling cues on it. They look fancier. I really like the labels too. I think the 32X looks nice. I'm a big fan of these. I think they look cool. Let's put that back into its protective sleeve. I do want to note that 32X games will not work on a Genesis without a Sega 32X. So, while most people consider this a horrible failure and a complete disaster and laugh at the 32X, it's actually not that bad because the prices are not that high and there's some decent games available for it, especially if you like Sega and Sega Genesis games. If you look on eBay or if you shop at a local game store, you'll typically find Sega 32X games in the mix. They don't cost that much, and while there's not that many of them released compared to the massive array of Sega Genesis titles available, you can find some real gems out there for the Sega 32X. So check it out, just make sure that you get this cable to make it work with your Sega Genesis, or it won't work and you'll be very frustrated trying to find one, especially the cable for the Model 1 Sega Genesis. That's the 32X. 32 more reasons that you should be playing your Sega Genesis right now. Go, play. I was actually done with the review, but I want to try something and just see what happens. Yeah, take this off of here. Leave the game in. Just plug the wire. It doesn't fit at all, but it does look pretty entertaining.